You know, I have been one of the Michigan Wolverines fans' favorite people every single offseason for 3 off seasons in a row. What's the expression of "fool me once, shame on you"? Fool me twice, that's probably my fault. Fool me 3 times, I'm an idiot. Fool me 4 times, though. Hell, I ought to just shut this channel down. Hey, good morning, it's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right, it's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on YouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also, and in addition to that as well. Hey, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. I post college football videos almost every single day of the year. Some of them are watchable, some aren't. That determination is left up to you, the viewer. Let me know down below what you think about this video when it's over. But up today is a preview and prediction video for none other than the Michigan Wolverines. Today's Michigan preview comes as a suggestion from Cody M over on the Uncle Lou Patreon page. There's a link in the description of this video. Make sure you click that link, check it out. Let me know what team it is you want to see me do a preview on. I'm going to try to do between 60 and 75 of these by the time the season rolls around. Cody M, I really appreciate you supporting the channel over there on the Patreon page. I hope you enjoy this Michigan Wolverines preview. Okay, yes, it's true. For 3 off seasons in a row now, leading up to this one, your boy Uncle Lou has been way higher on the Michigan Wolverines than just about anybody else you could find outside of Michigan fans who, maybe they thought they were going 12-0 because that's their team. But I was just way higher on Michigan than the average person the last 3 off seasons in a row. All 3 off seasons, I got told in the comment section what a complete idiot I was. And all 3 times, the comment section was proven right. Michigan has let me down 3 seasons in a row with my preview and predictions versus what actually happened to them during the season. Will I fall for the same banana in the tailpipe routine for a 4th offseason in a row? No, I don't want to spoil it. We're going to put the schedule up on the screen here in a few minutes, and I'm going to go through it game by game and give you what I think will end up being their overall regular season record for 2020. I'll go game by game and give you a win and loss for every single game. But before we get to that, I'm going to preview their roster, who'd they lose from last year, who's coming back, that kind of thing. Let's do that right now. All right, we'll start with 2019 and wrap it up real quick. Of course, they went, what'd they go? 9-3. Sounds about right for Michigan in 2019. 9-3, finished 9-4 after losing to, I believe it was Alabama in the Citrus Bowl, wasn't it? Yeah, pretty sure it was 35-16. They lost that game. The regular season losses, Wisconsin early in the season lost by 3 touchdowns. Penn State, they lost by 7. And then, per usual, different verse, same as the first. Close your eyes. You already know what's going to happen. Ohio State beat them by 29. Just not a competitive game. Hasn't been for a couple of years now. Harbaugh's going into his 6th year at Michigan, right? 9-4 last year, 10-3, 8-5, 10-3, 10-3. Not a terrible coach. That's his record. You can think what you want about Jim Harbaugh, and a lot of you have a lot of opinions about him one way or the other. I've made this joke before. It's not really a joke, though. I'm going to say it again because it bears repeating, and it's both funny and true. Let's listen. Here's Jim Harbaugh, okay? Here's Jim Harbaugh. Power 5 coach at 2 different schools going on 10 years, right? Both schools he's been a Power 5 coach at have won their division and played in conference title games prior to him getting there. So it's not like he's at a team that's never even made it to a championship game or anything like that. These teams have proven they have the ability to win their divisions or get to a conference championship game. Not Jim Harbaugh. Didn't happen at Stanford. Didn't happen at Michigan. At least not yet. Will it happen this year? Find out later. 10 years, no division titles, no conference championships. Now, what's the funny part about that? Find a random Florida fan on the street, ask them what they think about Jim Harbaugh. They'll tell you everything I just told you, and that he's overrated, and that he's not very good. You ask them why, and they'll tell you what I just told you. Hey, good guy, been at 2 schools, and he win his division. Can't even beat his rival. He can't even beat Ohio State. How you an elite coach? You can't even beat your winless against your rival. Never beat Ohio State. Never beat his rival. Never won his division. Never won a conference championship game. What a damn shame. Anyway, recruiting. How's Michigan done on the recruiting trail? Not bad. I mean, Michigan's had some really highly ranked classes. They've had some sort of okay classes in the 20s, right? But they haven't finished lower than third in the Big Ten in recruiting in the last 4 years. And that's what I like to look at, the last 4 recruiting cycles. That's generally what makes up the current roster, right? So you look at 2020, the class we just had, 14th overall class, not bad. Second in the Big Ten, behind Ohio State. 2019, the 8th ranked class, first in the Big Ten. 2018, the 22nd ranked class, the lowest in the last 4 years. Good for third in the Big Ten behind Ohio State and Penn State. 2017, the 5th ranked class. Good for number 2 in the Big Ten behind, once again, Ohio State. So nationally, 14, 8, 22, and 5. Within the Big Ten, 2, 1, 3, and 2. Plenty of talent on the roster at Michigan. Anybody that says there's not, they're just deluding themselves. They're just lying to themselves. There's plenty of talent on Michigan's roster. They've been great in years on defense. Offense has been sort of the issue, or what most people consider to be the issue. That's what's been holding Michigan back. They've had mostly subpar quarterback play. We'll see what happens this year with all that. We're going to talk about that here right now. Let's start with the offense, right? Quarterback competition. Or is there? Maybe. You got Dylan McCaffrey and Joe Milton, right? Shea Patterson is gone. He came in, played last year. Who's going to get the start? Michigan's a team that all teams were hurt by not having a spring practice. That hurts every single team. I don't care how good you are. You could have every single starter returning. You could have the exact same coaching staff. It still hurts not to have spring ball. There's a reason coaches want spring practice. It's because it helps you. So if having it helps you, then not having it hurts you. See how that works? But there are certain teams, I think, that not having spring ball is going to affect more than others. Who are those teams? Teams with quarterback changes. Teams with head coaching changes. Teams with offensive coordinator or offensive philosophy changes, right? You're basically getting 2 less months to install that new offense. So, yes, it's going to hurt Michigan a little bit with this quarterback situation. Maybe that would have got cleared up in the spring. Now, most likely, this QB competition is going to go not only to the start of the season, but most likely into the season. I expect both these quarterbacks to play. Dylan McCaffrey, a redshirt junior, and Joe Milton, a redshirt sophomore. Neither has played all that much. Both have played some. Neither has played a lot. They're both 4-star recruits out of high school, right? McCaffrey was in the class of 2017. He was the 5th rated overall pro-style quarterback coming out from the class of 2017. Joe Milton, also a 4-star, 9th rated pro-style pocket passer coming out in the class of 2018. Both guys redshirted their freshman year. Both guys played some their sophomore year. And in the case of Dylan McCaffrey being a junior, he's played some as well. But anyway, point is, we don't know who the quarterback is going to be. I think you're going to see both quarterbacks play probably the first at least 3 weeks of the season. Heading into Big Ten play. You'd like to have your quarterback established by the time you start Big Ten play in week 4. When you play, I believe it's Wisconsin. We'll get to the schedule in a second. And you have a big opening matchup, too, against a Pac-12 team, Washington, on the road. But I just don't know if you're going to have a solidified quarterback heading into that game. Would it be in week 1? We're getting a little ahead of it, but it's going to be one of those two guys. Now, Michigan wants a quarterback that can run around a little bit, right? Who's the OC out there? Is it it's Gaddis? Isn't it Josh Gaddis? It's Josh Gaddis. And he likes an athletic quarterback that can run around. Now, he doesn't necessarily need a dual threat quarterback, but he does like his quarterbacks to be able to move. Now, both of these guys have the ability to do that. They haven't showed it, like I said, all that much. Milton has maybe looked a little bit better running the ball in his short amount of time that he's played, and McCaffrey maybe has looked a little bit better throwing the ball, but both can move around a little bit, and that's what Josh Gaddis is looking for, a mobile QB. Like I said, doesn't have to be a dual threat guy, but he does want a QB that can move around, so I expect to see a lot of that from the Michigan offense. Now, no matter which quarterback they go with, what are they going to be doing with the ball? Well, I like Michigan's running back situation. Running back is probably the best position group on Michigan's team, in my opinion. I like both the top 2 guys they have at running back, Haskins and Charbonnet. Both of these guys are proven. Both have played a lot and have a lot of experience. Both have a ton of talent, in my opinion, too. I wouldn't be surprised to see one or both of these guys end up in the NFL at some point in the future. But they go 4 deep at the running back position, and I think they will play 4 running backs. And a lot of teams are doing that now. You got Turner and Evans that are sort of the 3 and 4 guy. I think you'll see them rotated in as well. Haskins and Charbonnet, though, are going to be the workhorses, at least in terms of running back, I think, for Michigan's offense this year, and I like both those guys. Wide receiver, Nico Collins decides to come back. That's huge. He's one of the best receivers in the Big Ten, in my opinion, and there are some really good receivers in the Big Ten. Good morning, Rondale Moore. Welcome back from your injury, sir. Rondale Moore is one of my favorite players to watch. Didn't get to see him last year because of the injury, but anyway, he'll be back this year, but this is not a Purdue video. Or is it? No, it'll be a Purdue video for a little bit when we get to the schedule, though. Anyway, what am I doing or talking about? No one knows. And you've got some other wide receivers, too, some talented playmakers at wide receiver. So I like your wide receivers. I think your running back's probably your best position group on your team. It's definitely your best position group on offense. And if one of those two quarterbacks ends up being an improvement over what you've had previously under Jim Harbaugh, I think you'll be okay at all three of those positions. But what about the offensive line? 4 starters gone from last year. Never easy to do that. I'm a Georgia fan. We're in the same boat this year offensive line-wise. Now, luckily for Georgia, we've recruited ridiculous along the offensive line. I think we'll be okay this year on the offensive line. Michigan also recruited well along the offensive line. You get your right tackle back. Other than that, you got to replace the other 4 spots. So we'll see. No matter how talented an offensive lineman is, takes a little bit of game experience for an offensive line as a whole to develop that chemistry and unity that you like to see along an offensive line. An offensive line is 5 different positions, but really they play as one. You really need to know what the guy on the left and the right of you is doing. You have to be comfortable in what they're doing in order for yourself to be comfortable in what you're doing. It takes a few weeks at a minimum, in my opinion, to sort of get to that point as an offensive line, especially when you're looking at replacing 4 starters. So that's a question mark on Michigan's offensive line right now. Now you take a look at the defense. Like I mentioned at the top, the defense has tended to not be the issue under Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. They have put a lot of great players in the NFL, particularly at the defensive lineman and linebacker position. They're loaded again this year on defense. Defense coordinator Don Brown gets a ton of pieces back from a pretty good defense last year. And it all starts really with the 2 guys on the outside, your defensive ends. What are these guys? Quiddy. I'm probably saying that name wrong. Well, I wish people in the comment section would leave me alone about saying people's names wrong. I don't name these people, okay? None of these people are my kids. I didn't name any of these people, okay? So it's not my job to pronounce their name right when they clearly have done everything humanly possible to make it really, really hard to pronounce. So give me a break. Anyway, Quiddy Pay and Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. No question marks there. Those are 2 elite defensive ends along the front there for Michigan. Might be the best tandem defensive ends within the Big Ten. We'll see what Ohio State puts on the field this year. They're another team that recruits ridiculously along the defensive line. Of course, Penn State's got some playmakers. Michael Parsons, probably their best player at linebacker. Anyway, this is not a Penn State video. Or is it? No. Michigan. Come on. What are you doing? Stop it. There will be a Penn State video, though. Don't worry. Yeah. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Michigan's defense. What's this guy's name? Cameron McGrones? Is that his name? Again, tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. He returns at linebacker, so you get him back. That's good. He took over now he didn't start last year at the beginning of the season. He was a backup, but starter went down, John Ross. This guy came in and actually ended up playing pretty well. Now, John Ross is back this year, but from what I was reading this morning, it looks like Don Brown's going to move him to the outside to try to get both of them on the field at the same time. So we'll see what happens with that. You get Ambry Thomas back at cornerback. You need to find somebody to play alongside of him, and both your safeties return. So you got a couple of pieces you got to fill on defense. Like I said, you've recruited well. We'll see how these guys play now that it's going to be sort of their turn, next man up type thing at Michigan, right? So there you go. That's the defense. All right, let's take a look at the schedule now and figure out what day record you're going to be is. All right, the 2020 schedule for Michigan. Being in the Big Ten East, it's never going to be easy, at least the last few years, and it doesn't look like that's changing anytime soon. The Big Ten East, I think, is the closest thing to the SEC West in all of college football. There are some teams in the Big Ten East that are just absolutely loaded. Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State primarily, I think all top 10/top 15 teams in the same division there in the Big Ten. So never going to be an easy road for anybody in the Big Ten East to come out of there having to play all those other teams within that same division. But you start off with a non-con game on the road against a Pac-12 opponent, Washington. I think this is an interesting game. Now, the Pac-12 has struggled against elite teams from the other Power 5 conferences. This is something that's well documented over the last 10 years or so. Not that the Pac-12 hasn't had any good teams. They have. Oregon, of course, had a run. Southern Cal had a run 15 years or so. That was really the last dominant team the Pac-12 had. It was that Southern Cal team in the mid-2000s. Oregon was really, really good for a while under Chip Kelly, but they kept getting their doo-doo pushed in every time they played a highly ranked team from, say, the SEC or whatever. And then you look out there now, not really a dominant team. Oregon is sort of making a push to become that. Utah, very consistent in the Pac-12 South. But Oregon, definitely the cream of the crop within the Pac-12. Then you say maybe Utah's right there. Washington has been close several times. Washington actually made a college football playoff a few years ago. They lose Jacob Eason at quarterback. They've got a new coaching staff there. So they've got a lot of changes. They're a team that's probably going to be hurt a lot too with the cancellation of spring ball and all that. Has sort of slowed down their development with the new quarterback, new coaching system, all that kind of thing. But you got to go there. You have quarterback issues of your own. Washington, I think, will know who their starting quarterback is week 1. Michigan will not. I have you losing week 1 on the road at Washington. It's not that I think Washington is an elite top 10 team this year, although I do think they're a good team, a top 25 team for sure. I just can't see you winning this one week 1 on the road, brand new offensive line, no clue who the quarterback is going to be. And even if you did, we've just never seen them do anything in college. They've come in a few times over the last year or two. Right? We just haven't seen enough from either one of those two guys to be comfortable that they can lead that offense. Brand new offensive line, week 1, hostile environment on the road. I wouldn't be shocked if you won this game. I think you're probably a better team top to bottom. I just have you losing. It's not any hate for Michigan. This is just one of those I have a feeling type things. It's on the road, new quarterback, offensive line issues. Can you really work that out in week 1? I don't know. I've got you losing a close one on the road week 1 at Washington. Now, week 2 and week 3, you have 2 more non-con games against lower classification schools, Ball State and Arkansas State. These are 2 very important games for Michigan in terms of the rest of the season. Not that there's any chance you'll lose those 2. You'll win both these games. But you've got to get things figured out offensively during these 2 games right here. You got to get the quarterback situation figured out during these 2 games. You've got to get the offensive line situation figured out during these 2 games. If you can do that, I think it gives you a good chance to make some noise in the Big Ten East and potentially the Big Ten as a whole. If you can't, if those question marks linger past week 3 into Big Ten play, it could be a very disappointing season for Michigan. But you win both those games before hosting Wisconsin in your Big Ten opener. Now, Wisconsin's going through some changes too. Jonathan Taylor, they lost some offensive linemen. Does it really matter? I mean, they're going to have 3 or 4 NFL offensive linemen. They lose Jonathan Taylor. Does that matter? Ask yourself. I think it matters in that I would be surprised if Wisconsin has another 2,000-yard back on that roster. But I'm not going to be surprised if their overall rushing numbers are the same or very similar this year to what they were last year when Jonathan Taylor was there. We may see more of a running back by committee approach out of Wisconsin rather than feeding the ball to Jonathan Taylor 25 times a game, which is what they've done for the last 3 years. But I don't think anybody is going to doubt Wisconsin's ability to run the ball. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They play well along the lines of scrimmage. This will be a tough game. They've got some quarterback questions going on too. Their starter does return, but they've got a really talented young guy there that I don't think anybody would be surprised if he ends up taking the starting job. But I've got you beating Wisconsin at home. This is a revenge game from last year when really they embarrassed you. This was a huge game. You were hot. They were hot. People were excited to watch this thing, and you just never really showed up. It was never really a competitive game. You ended up losing by 3 touchdowns. Never competitive, though. Like I said, Wisconsin was just clearly the better team. They dominated you along the lines of scrimmage. I'm giving you some benefit of the doubt here. I wouldn't be surprised if you beat Washington, even though I've got you losing. I wouldn't be surprised if you lost to Wisconsin, even though I've got you winning. But I do have you picking up the win at home here, opening up your Big Ten schedule 1-0, puts you overall for the season right now 3-1. Then you host Penn State. If you're looking for the team that I've been really high on for the last 3 years, higher than anyone else, if you're looking for that team this year, it's Penn State. Go back to last year and listen to what I said about Penn State heading into last year. I said, I think Penn State's going to be a good team, but next year, 2020, they're going to be very dangerous, a playoff contending team. Now, they were actually better last year than I even thought they would be. They get almost everything back. They've got probably the best defensive player in the Big Ten now that Chase Young is gone, and linebacker Micah Parsons. They've got weapons everywhere on offense. I think James Franklin is still as much credit as James Franklin gets. And as many people talk well about James Franklin, I still think he's underrated. I think James Franklin is one of the best coaches in all of college football. I've been saying it since back his days at Vanderbilt. Nothing he's done at Penn State has changed my mind. Not being able to get over the hump and beat Ohio State does not mean you're a terrible coach necessarily. And he has done it. He has won his division at Penn State. He has played in Rose Bowls. He's proven himself. I still think he's a little bit too underrated. Penn State comes into the big house and slaps you around. This could be last year's Wisconsin game, I think. Penn State could beat you bad here, especially if you didn't do what I told you to do in week 2 and 3 and get those issues worked out along the offensive line. You better, if you don't know who your quarterback here is, just forget it. They might beat you by 40. I think Penn State comes into the big house and gets it done. You take your second loss of the season, you're sitting at 3-2. Rivalry time now when you go on the road and play your little brother or big brother, depending on how many years you want to look just. Well, anyway, point is you're playing Michigan State on the road. I think you get a win there. Disappointing season last year. Had an amazing defense. Offense was impossible to watch. I mean, their offense set football back 50 years. It was that bad. It's terrible. D'Antonio's gone. Brand new coaching staff in there. Who knows what they're going to try to put out on the field this year. Another team that's going to be really, really hurt by not having spring ball. I think you get the win on the road against Sparty. You're sitting at 4-2. And you got to go on the road and play Minnesota. Last year's Cinderella season. Lou, what's your thoughts on Minnesota? Here's my thoughts on Minnesota. Almost any team in the Power 5 has the capability of having a season like Minnesota had last year. Almost any of them. You end up with a team that has players that are a little bit better than what you normally get, that have been there for 4 years, that stick around. Your roster is loaded with veteran, experienced juniors and seniors, and you're well coached. You can have a season like Minnesota had last year, even though talent-wise, top to bottom, you really got no business competing. You recruiting rankings or whatever you want to look at, the overall talent that Minnesota had compared to other 10 and 11 win teams wasn't even close. Almost any team has the capability of doing that once. However, to consistently win 10-plus games in the Power 5, you have got to recruit at a high level year in and year out. You just have to. You just look at the recruiting rankings and then look at the final top 10 poll for the last 10 years. You'll see a lot of the same teams. Alabama consistently recruits in the top 10, consistently finishes in the top 10. Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia. The list goes on and on and on. Okay, so there's a reason that recruiting matters. I don't hate Minnesota. I think Minnesota will be a good team again this year. I do not think Minnesota is repeating what they did last year. I think you go on the road and get a win at Minnesota against the fighting PJ Flex. You should be happy about that. There's a lot of people that's going to pick Minnesota to beat you here. So maybe, cut me some slack here. Now you got to go and play Purdue. Rondale Moore show. Mentioned that earlier. Rondale Moore. One of my favorite players to watch in 2018, and I could not wait to watch him play last year. And then he comes out in the first month of the season, gets an ankle injury, out for the rest of the year. Very disappointing. He's one of the most elite and electrifying playmakers in all of college football. We all remember the Ohio State game from a couple of years ago. I didn't write the stats down. I don't have them in front of me. It seemed like Rondale Moore had 1,000 yards in that game. It just seemed like every time you turned around, he was breaking a 40, 50, 60-yard catch and run. It was one of the most unbelievable things I've seen. He's back. He's healthy. Purdue could be a team that surprises some people this year in the Big Ten. They played 3 different quarterbacks last year because of injuries and some other things. They never really got it all figured out offensively. Their best player went down, and they still threw the ball for 10 million yards. Their offense is going to be scary good this year, in my opinion. I think you catch an L at Purdue. Minnesota's probably a better team. I've got you taking a loss there to the Boilermakers. That takes you into your bye week, and you're sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3. Is that right? Heading into your bye week. 4 games remaining. You come out of your bye week and you host Maryland. Maryland's an interesting team. I like their coaches. Tua Jr. transferred there. I don't think he's going to play this year, but anyway, it's an interesting team. I do think Maryland is a team that is improving, but they're not on Michigan's level. They're just not. And this is a game you have to win. The fans are going to be a little disappointed by this point in the season if it plays out the way I have it playing out. Lose this one, and the boo birds are going to come out. And Harbaugh is going to start to lose a lot of support. He's already starting to lose some support amongst the Michigan fans for obvious reasons that we went over at the beginning of the video. Can't win the division, can't beat his rival, disappointing season after disappointing season as compared to expectations. At this point in the season, if you're 5-3 and you come out of a bye week and lose to Maryland at home, that could be the beginning of the end for Jim Harbaugh. I don't see it happening. I think you get a win, 2 weeks to prepare, heal up, rest some players that might be nicked up, whatever the case, change around some things that you might need to change around. You get a win over the Fighting Turtles, you're sitting at 6-3. And you go on the road and play one of the worst teams in America, Rutgers, win. I have no hate for Rutgers at all, but they're that bad. They're pitiful. They're pathetic, honestly. You'll probably blow them out. Home against Indiana. This is another tough one. Indiana is a team that seems like they beat or come close to beating one of the really good teams within the Big Ten almost every single year. Don't let it be you. I don't think it will. I've got you winning at home against Indiana. You turn around and close the season out on the road at Ohio State. Loss. I'm not picking you to beat Ohio State. In fact, I'm never picking you to beat Ohio State ever again until you actually do it. The next time I'm wrong about the Michigan-Ohio State game, it's going to be because Michigan won. I'm not going to be wrong because Michigan lost again. I'm not picking Michigan to beat Ohio State. I don't care. Ohio State can lose. Listen, something can happen, a coronavirus or something, and Ohio State can show up to play this game with literally 22 players. Okay? I would pick Ohio State to beat you. I'm not picking you to beat Ohio State again, okay? I have been all over Michigan the last 3 years. This is the year. There ain't no year. There ain't no year. You're not beating them. They may beat you worse than they beat you last year. How about that? I'm tired of being embarrassed by Michigan, okay? So I'm on the Ohio State train for this particular game, at least. You're not winning. All right, so that wraps it up at 8-4 for the Michigan Wolverines. A disappointing season. Will this be Jim Harbaugh's last season in Ann Arbor? I don't know. It's going to be hard to fire him. I'm going to be honest. It's going to be hard to fire Jim Harbaugh at 8-4. If he had an epically bad season, if he somehow managed to miss a bowl game, I think it makes the decision a lot easier. 8-4, I really don't know. I know a lot of the fans are going to be extremely disappointed if Michigan ends up 8-4. That's what I've got you doing, though, 8-4. I'm just tired of buying into the hype with Michigan and getting disappointed and let down every single time. I've been back in Michigan the last 3 years. There's a lot of Michigan fans who are on this channel because I was so high on Michigan at some point over the last 3 off seasons. It's not my intention to run any of you guys off now. I've got no hate for Michigan or Jim Harbaugh or any Michigan fans or players. Honestly, that's what I think is going to happen with Michigan this year. Those question marks on offense combined with the fact that Jim Harbaugh has just been unable to get anything going offensively really the entire time he's been at Michigan really makes me question whether or not Michigan can get to the 9 or 10 win mark that they've become accustomed to under Harbaugh. I think it's looking more like an 8-4 season. It's going to be a month into the season probably before you get that quarterback situation figured out. And even, like I said, even once you get it figured out, none of us right now really know how either one of those guys are going to do. We just don't. Now, the other quarterbacks you've had, it's not like they've been blowing people away. So maybe you're going, well, they got to be better than what we had before. Well, that's what we thought about Shea Patterson, including me. And it just didn't work out that way. Losing 4 starters on the offensive line, I'm a Georgia fan, and we're in the same boat. It scares me to death. And like I said, I can tell you every single lineman on UGA's roster, they're all potentially NFL players in the future. They're all 4- and 5-star guys. Until they get out there and play as a unit and show me they can push people around, it's hard for me to even buy into Georgia's offensive line. So I definitely can't do it with Michigan, especially not early in the season. That's why I got you going down to Washington. But anyway, that's my official prediction for the Michigan Wolverines for 2020. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Share it somewhere also I'm trying to get to 40,000 subscribers by the time the season starts. That is a lofty goal. I set a goal for myself once a year, always this time of year, and it's the only time I do the whole please share my videos thing. It's not like I beg you guys to do that all the time. 40,000 is a very lofty goal, but I think I can get there with your help. So if you're a Michigan fan, share this video in a Michigan group somewhere or on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And even if you're not a Michigan fan, there's a playlist that has all these previews in it. I'll put a link up here to it somewhere, or you can just go to my channel and find the playlist. Find your team or find your favorite preview of mine that I've done so far and share it somewhere. That would really help me out. Subscribe if you're not. Thumbs up the video, and I'll see y'all again real soon. Have a good morning.